How's it going, Jack Tackers, and welcome back to another video for you guys. Today, I'm going to be doing my review for Christopher Nolan's newest film, Oppenheimer. And of course, this was my number one most anticipated movie of 2023, so I was really looking forward to seeing this and had unbelievable expectations. And luckily, my expectations were met and probably exceeded because this movie is really damn good and blew my mind. Okay, sorry. But yeah, it's a great movie, very terrific, quite frankly. And it was a great experience seeing it in IMAX. I usually don't see films in IMAX, and I knew I had to see it in this format for this movie, because if I didn't see it in IMAX, I feel like it wouldn't really be the same experience. I mean, my body was vibrating. I had goosebumps all around my body just from the music and the surround sound, and the giant screen made me feel like I was floating in certain sequences. So, not to be dramatic, but yeah, it was just one hell of an experience. And I think the main thing about this movie that I just am blown away by, again, pun not intended for that one, Cillian Murphy, of course, plays J. Robert Oppenheimer, and he is incredible here. And I always love Cillian Murphy and everything he's in. He's, dare I say, an underrated actor. I mean, he's been in a lot of movies, but, he's never been in a Christopher Nolan movie as the lead. Of course, he's been, side characters in a bunch of his other films, but here he's a leading man, and it's just great. Knocked it out of the park. He nailed the look of J. Robert Oppenheimer and the voice, which I feel like not a lot of people are talking about. In all the little interviews I've seen of Oppenheimer, the real Oppenheimer, he's got this kind of distinct voice, probably from all the cigarettes he's smoked. It sounds very grainy and whatever, and like his throat's hurting from smoking so much. And I think Cillian actually nails that type of voice really damn well. And a lot of people are mentioning Cillian Murphy's eyes in this, and he's got those bright blue eyes, and you can really just see the emotion packed into his face. And I think that's another great thing about Cillian Murphy as an actor. He can just portray emotions really well. I mean, that's what actors ultimately should do, of course. And you can just see the pain in his eyes and the guilt kind of leaking out of them, so to speak. And it's great stuff. And the whole cast is fantastic, and that's kind of one of the main draws of this movie for me. Because not only Cillian, but, you have Robert Downey Jr. in here. And you kind of do forget, I've heard a lot of people talk about this, how RDJ has been playing Iron Man for so long. You almost forget, and he's great as Iron Man, of course, but you sometimes forget just how good of an actor he can be. And, RDJ didn't have to do this movie, but it's almost like he wanted to prove to people again that, I've been playing Iron Man for a while, but I can play something different, and he's incredible in this movie. We'll talk a little bit more about RDJ in this movie, a little later in this review, but I do want to say it was great. But then you have, Florence Pugh in here. She's great. And a lot of other, random people showing up, even Devin Bostick for, one moment, and Josh Peck. And it's these random people that you wouldn't think to be in a Christopher Nolan movie are in it, and it's just, I don't know, I think that's pretty amazing. And overall, this film's just very haunting. If I had to pick one word to describe this movie, it would be haunting. It's one of the more thought-provoking films I've seen as of late as well. It just leaves you on a point in terms of how this movie ends, which it's just really makes you think. And it made me feel something, it was special, man. It was really special seeing this movie. And after it ended, I was just sitting there in the theater whoa. All right, and I'll be thinking about this movie for a long time, quite frankly. And another thing I want to mention, of course, there's a lot of talk about this as well. No CGI used in all the explosion sequences, and Christopher Nolan doesn't really like to use CGI. And there are VFX, and VFX, from my understanding, are different from CGI. But he did use VFX, but it's just no CGI. And the little glimpses of, I don't know exactly what it is. I'm not a scientist, but it's like the subatomic world or whatever. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. It's very cool that he made me feel it just felt like I was floating in those little moments. where it would show those little glimpses of, I guess Oppenheimer's visions of the subatomic world. At least I think it's a subatomic world, or the glimpses inside of what the bomb would look like, and yada, 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 science stuff. But just also the explosions themselves, because you do get some close-up shots of them in this movie. It's just like, it takes up the whole screen, obviously, and it almost made me feel like I was in like a planetarium. If you've ever been to a planetarium, man, again, I don't see IMAX movies that much, so maybe this is always what it's like in IMAX, but yeah, man, it just made me feel like I was in a different plane of existence. And Ludwig Göransson's music, let's talk about that, his score for this film. I love Hans Zimmer, I do, and I don't know if Hans Zimmer and Nolan have kind of broken up or what, because Hans Zimmer wasn't, scoring Tenet, and Ludwig Göransson was. But I love Ludwig Göransson. He is just a master, and he's, one of the better composers working in Hollywood right now. And wow. I mean, his music made my whole body get goosebumps. It was vibrating, rocked me to my core, dude. And I'll be listening to, his score for a while after I've seen this movie now, because it's just so damn good. And I would like to see Ludwig Göransson continue with Nolan, because I think they make a good pair. Maybe Hans Zimmer's just busy or something. Maybe he was doing the music. I know he's doing the music for Dune, so perhaps that was the case. But no, Ludwig Göransson is still just really great, and if it can't be Hans Zimmer, then I'm okay with it being him. And overall, this is a very intense movie, very anxiety-inducing. It causes a bunch of existential dread in a way that Barbie couldn't really make me feel. If you saw my Barbie review, you'll know that the movie didn't really speak to me. This movie kind of spoke to me, but I feel like this movie can speak to everyone. I think Barbie kind of sidelined some people, but we're not going to get into that. And I just think, well, I kind of wanted to bring it up just because of the whole Barbenheimer thing. And in my opinion, Oppenheimer won the Barbenheimer War. But, it's okay if you think Barbie was better, I suppose. And I don't know, I just think, especially the silence in the theater when the atomic bomb is first dropped for the, the Trinity test. My heart was pounding. I felt like I was, holding my breath, forgetting how to breathe, and I was covering my ears. I was covering my ears, bracing for the sound of the explosion. And this is a loud movie. I think I got sensory problems or something, but whatever. I'm very sensitive to like loud noises, so sometimes, it got very loud in the theater, but it kind of needed to be loud, if it wasn't a lot. And it's, again, very quiet at times as well, because, there's kind of like a delayed reaction for the atomic bomb, I guess. You don't hear the explosion right away, or at least maybe the sound wave. Is that what it is? God, I'm stupid. But yeah, it really was crazy seeing that part of the movie. And without a doubt, is, I would say, probably the best part of the movie. I mean, there's a lot of great sequences in here, and we'll talk about some others a bit later. But that is kind of, I want to say, the climax of the movie. However, after the bombs dropped, there's still like an hour or so left of the movie, kind of dealing with the aftermath of the Trinity test and the courtroom stuff and them questioning Oppenheimer. And I think that's needed to a degree. And this is where we're getting into the very slight negatives I have with the movie. It's not many, it's not much. But there's some amazing scenes in the final hour. However, I do kind of feel like, and I hate to be this guy, but I feel like maybe the movie's a little too long, should have been trimmed. Maybe, it should have been like a 15, 20-minute resolution instead. I know some people are going to clown on me in the comments for saying that, but I don't know. I do think you need to have a bit of a resolution for sure, but that the whole movie was building up to the, atomic bomb being dropped, and then after we're kind of dealing with the aftermath. It's almost like epilogue to a degree, and I want to see that, but it gets very talky in that final hour, and I think it makes sense, though, just because we get to see how good Robert Downey Jr. is in the final hour of the movie, because up until that point, like, he was great, but I never really saw, like, some people were saying, oh, he should get an Oscar. It's like, yeah, I guess he should get an Oscar, but I didn't really feel that, like, oh, he definitely deserves an Oscar, until that final hour where he's almost playing, like a villainous role of sorts. And that final stretch of the film, he's just fantastic, and he's going off, and he's amazing. Like, I loved him in this movie, and I'm so glad he was cast in the film. And he's just perfect, honestly. And I think that final hour is, like, it's needed, but I don't know. I was kind of zoning out for a few seconds, not going to lie. Which is why I wouldn't exactly say this film's a masterpiece, but it's very close to being a masterpiece. And I don't know, like, I've only seen the movie once, right? So I feel like any movie I see only one time, I can't really say with all confidence that it's, a masterpiece, because, I don't know, that's just my opinion. I feel like you have to see a movie at least a few times before you can declare if it's like, okay, 5 stars, whatever. But it's really good. I love this movie. And it moved me to tears, this film, at one point. I cried during the scene, just a little bit, not going to lie, during the scene where Oppenheimer has to kind of give that brief speech to everyone after the Trinity test. And he's kind of imagining, I guess, the bomb going off in the room, and then he sees people's faces melt, and they turn to ash right in front of him. The camera's shaking. Again, the whole theater's freaking vibrating. And it was some sad and powerful stuff. Like, it was. And then he walks out of the room and sees Devin Bostic's character vomiting just from all the guilt and just the fear, quite frankly, of, everyone's kind of applauding them for what they've done. But they're like, oh, man, I don't know. They feel a little icky about it. They feel a little icky about the whole situation. And then you can just see that. And it's like, oh, man, it was sad. Especially that one scene where he's, like, walking out, Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, when he's walking out, and then he, like, steps in the, the dead corpse of one of the people he's imagining is dead. And it's, like, just completely, I mean, obviously the body is just, like, completely, I guess, glass. I don't even know what, atomic bombs can do to people. But he just, like, steps in it, and it's like, oof. It's like dark stuff, heavy stuff. Man. That scene really stuck with me, and it's probably one of the better scenes in the movie. That with the Trinity test scene, I mean, that was just amazing. And the ending, of course. I mean, Nolan knows how to make a film. And obviously, if you know anything about me, Christopher Nolan is one of my all-time favorite directors, responsible for many great films, The Dark Knight. But, he's just a master here, and he knows how to leave you on a point where you're like, wow, and you feel gutted after watching this movie. It's crazy. And the music, again, it's a lot of it does have to do with the music. That's why I really do have to applaud Ludwig Göransson. It's just really great. And that final expression you see on Oppenheimer's face is just sad and sticks with you. And I need to see this movie again. I don't think I'll be able to see it again in IMAX, but maybe once it comes out on digital or something like that. Won't exactly be the same experience, of course, but I did love this movie. And I can safely say it's my favorite film of the year. That's right. And I don't know if it'll be topped, to be honest. I really don't know. I mean, we still have some other bangers coming out, hopefully, this year. I mean, we have a Scorsese picture coming out. But, I've always liked Nolan a bit more than Scorsese, so I don't know. And I'm not to say that Killers of the Flower Moon is going to be bad. I'm sure it's going to be amazing, but it's just, I don't know if it'll beat this movie. And I'm just trying to think, like, what other movies are coming out. I still haven't seen quite a few heavy hitters that have come out this year so far, so I don't know. But anyway, now I'm just rambling. But I wanted to make this review and talk about it, and I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say about this movie down in the comments below. What was your favorite part? What stuck with you the most? And it's just, I'll probably do a Christopher Nolan movie ranking going over all the movies that he's made. And I guess you'll have to see where I would rank this amongst his filmography, but it's very good. And I'm so glad that movies are back, it seems, with this Barbenheimer situation, and this movie's made a lot of money so far, so that's pretty good. But yeah, post your thoughts and comments on this movie down in the comments below. And if you guys liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check out my Letterboxd and Twitter in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.